Namaskar. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Know the Nobels Forum 2023. We all saw the culmination of the Nobel Prizes 2023 for the sciences, starting from medicine, then going to physics and then to chemistry. So साइंस के बाद नोबेल की इस यात्रा में आज साहित्य का समय आया है. Today on 5th of October, which also happens to be the World Teachers Day, the International Teachers Day, the Nobel Prizes for literature was announced, and the 2023 Nobel Prize for Literature has been bestowed upon the Norwegian author John Fosse for his innovative plays and prose which give voice to the unsayable. So a very prominent literary figure and Nobel Committee has used the term innovative plays and prose. So at a time when we are all seeing the advent of platforms like ChatGPT, which are creating massive amount of content from already created human content. So perhaps the Fosse test, the literary test, is something which will come to our rescue if we have to differentiate between a human intelligence and a machine intelligence. So that is yet a different aspect of the philosophical divide which will come through. But today, this evening, we would be delving deeper into the entire literary narrative of John Fosse, the Norwegian author, and his innovative plays and prose. The term innovative has been used phenomenally. Innovation, as we are generally encountering, is happening in the domain of technological innovations largely. So let's understand what kind of innovations the literary style, the exemplification, the expression of the human feelings, human experiences, which John Fosse brought about. And at this juncture, we would like to say that, like these sciences, which delve deeper into the physical realities, the realities of the matter, the biological systems, the chemical systems, literature again, it touches upon the human aspect of the existence, and that is why Alfred Nobel laid a very much emphasis, and in fact, one of the initial 5 Nobel Prizes had literature as a very critical component, devoting around 11 million Swedish kronas, which goes entirely to one Nobel laureate as a singular chunk. So John Fosse's immense oeuvre, written in Norwegian, Nynorsk, and spanning a variety of genres, consists of a wealth of plays, novels, poetry collections, essays, children's books, and translations. While he is today one of the most widely performed playwrights, we all know William Shakespeare, the playwright, his very fascinating plays, which gave him that prestige of being perhaps the father of the modern English literature. So he has also become increasingly recognized for his prose. So both poetry and prose, that is what plays and prose That is what they are talking about. Plays is a genre in itself. So let's dive deep into what human feelings, human expression John Fosse has brought about, which has qualified him to be a Nobel laureate in literature for the year 2023. So I would request Dr. Surbhi to take on this slide and illumine you further on the persona of John Fosse, the Nobel laureate for literature 2023.
So hello and welcome. Let's know more about John Fosse. He was born in 1959 in Haugesund on the Norwegian west coast. His immense oeuvre, written in 9 arts and spanning a variety of genres, consists of a wealth of plays, novels, poetry collections, essays, children's books, and translations. While he is today one of the most widely performed playwrights in the world, he has also become increasingly recognized for his prose. His debut novel, Raud Swart, 1983, as rebellious as it was emotionally raw, broached the theme of suicide and in many ways set the tone for his later work.
So here, friends, I would like to just bring your attention from the earlier Know the Nobels forum, that Nobel Committee somewhere goes back to around 30 to 40 years, where the initial works of these laureates would have started. Yesterday, we saw that when the quantum dots were discovered, their first papers, first discoveries dated back to 1981, 1983, and the experimental work was of 1993. The mRNA part was a bit of a later duration. That was a departure from the usual Nobel practice as critics were talking about. So even in the case of John Fosse, the literary giant, his debut novel came out in 1983. So he had to wait for 40 long years, continue his work for a whole lifetime to get qualified to the level of a Nobel laureate. So Fosse's European breakthrough as a dramatist came with Claude Reggie's 1999 Paris production of his play Nokon Kajem Til E Kome. In English, it reads, "Someone is going to come." Even in this early piece, with its themes of fearful anticipation and crippling jealousy, the interplay of human emotions is very stark in John Fosse's works. Fosse's singularity, the speciality, is fully evident in his radical reduction of languages and dramatic action. He expresses the most powerful human emotions of anxiety and powerlessness in the simplest everyday terms. So these are the innovations which he has brought to the world of literature. Language doesn't matter much. Literature prizes have been given to authors in various languages, and at times these Nobel laureates are polyglots. They write in multiple languages as well. So the human emotions, the human expressions, that is what is the core of literature. It is through this ability to evoke man's loss of orientation and how this paradoxically can provide access to a deeper experience close to divinity, that he has come to be regarded as a major innovator in contemporary theater. So this is where the innovation part of it comes into play. So in common with his great precursor in Nainork's literature, Tarjei Visas, Fosse combines strong local ties, both linguistic and geographic, with modernist artistic techniques. He includes in his Volver van Skaften such names as Samuel Beckett, Thomas Bernhardt, and George Trakell, while Fosse shares the negative outlook of his predecessors. His particular Gnostic vision cannot be said to result in a nihilistic contempt of the word. So there are tones of literature, and that is what it is being critiqued at in this Nobel Prize winning commentary. So indeed, there is a great warmth and humor in his work and naive vulnerability to his stark images of human experiences. So in fact, now this will remain a challenge for the computational linguists who are trying to encapsulate the entire domain of human expressions by way of machine expressions. But it seems like that the human expression is an intractable proposition for the machines to reproduce, and literary giants like John Fosse would be always an enigma for the machines to produce the writing styles, because human emotions are entirely human in nature. So this AI versus HI debate, the stark of it all, it will remain for a much longer time to follow. So over to Dr. Sulbhi. This slide she will take on. Yeah.
So in his second novel, Stringed Guitar, Fosse 1985, Fosse presents us with a harrowing variation on one of his major themes, the critical moment of irresolution. A young mother leaves her flat to throw rubbish down the chute but locks herself out. With the baby still inside, needing to go and seek help, she is unable to do so since she cannot abandon her child, while she finds herself in Kafkaesque terms before the law. The difference is clear. Fosse presents everyday situations that are instantly recognizable from our own lives.
Friends,
As with this,
we would have seen that he comes from the word of Norway, the Norwegian author, and we know the child protection regulations in the word of Norway. Mrs. Chatterjee, the famous flick we are all witnessing on Netflix and other OTT platforms. So this is a kind of encounter which he has presented, that the mother goes out and she becomes helpless, but then she finds herself before the law. So he presents that very atypical Norwegian context in one of his writings out here. So as with his first book, the novel is heavily pared down to a style that has come to be known as Fosse minimalism. At the same time, there is a sense of trepidation and a powerful ambivalence. There is an anxiety, but there is an ambivalence. This later comes to a feature in his dramatic work, in which he is able to make use of pauses and interruptions to express this uncertainty. So uncertainty remains a central theme of Fosse's literary style, and moreover, charge them with emotion. In his plays, we are confronted with words or acts that appear incomplete, a lack of resolution that continues to preoccupy our minds. The play Nata Singh, Sain Songa, 1998, Night Songs in 2002, represents a drawn-out yet unresolved quandary in which the women's impulse to go off with a new man is constantly opposed by a counter impulse, a yes qualified with the keyword but. The man she has abandoned ends up taking his own life, while her new beau disappears from sight. It is no doubt Fosse's courage in opening himself up to the uncertainties and anxieties of everyday life that lies behind the extraordinary recognition he has received among the general public. So uncertainties and anxieties in everyday life, this is what Fosse has expressed. That is a phenomenal expression of the human feelings out here. So moving forward in the critical commentary of Fosse's literary style, the innovations he has brought about in his plays and prose. So over to Dr. Surbhi to take on this slide. Yeah.
From the very beginning of the play, Namnet from 1995, which means the name 2002, uh, we are presented with an emotionally charged everyday situation. A girl, young and pregnant, is waiting for the father of the unborn child who has been delayed. The tension is immediately built up here due to this sense of uncertainty and its resulting fragmentary sentences. These disruptions, moreover, create a gulf between the girl's longing for a new life with the child and her anxiety that she has been abandoned by the father. Something similar occurs in the heart-rending work Dodds Warriors Jonar, Death Variations, 2004, a one-act play about a girl who commits suicide, told backwards from the time of her death. It is written in short, interrupted locutions delivered by the six nameless characters from different generations, both alive and dead. The piece ends with the daughter's deeply moving speech, delivered from the other side of the grave, in which she expresses a fundamental uncertainty as to whether her decision to take her own life was the correct one.
So in Skugga 2007, Fosse stages a series of reunions during which the same simple phrases are repeated with an explicit ambiguity. No, of course, that's just what you say when you meet someone. As a dramatist, Fosse generally respects unity of place while disrupting the unity of time. In fact, the place where the nameless characters meet after many years is both unknown to them and rather disconcerting. This timeless setting of Fosse's own creation provides an emblematic backdrop for his dramatic encounters. In his earlier play, Drom om Hosten, Dream of Autumn, he presents us with a masterly representation of a multi-layered time. The scene here is a symmetry where a man, coincidentally it seems, meets a woman. In fact, they have spent their lives together, a shared experience filled with love, false steps, and unrealized dreams. Also in this piece, different time layers in which the demons of the past haunt the living are almost seamlessly intertwined. So this is the dramatic style what Fosse is bringing over and over again, and that is what makes him the Nobel laureate, a very distinctive literary style, a very distinctive way of representing the complex and the intertwined world of the human mind, the human feelings, the human expressions, what John Fosse has brought to the world, the greatest benefit to the mankind. So again, the Nobel Committee has to fall within that framework of selecting a literary piece of work which has the greatest benefit to the mankind. So this is what the uncertainties and the anxieties. And today, this is so very relevant today because the VUCA factor, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity which we are facing in our day-to-day life, it has become the new normal. We are coping to live with that. Every day, the prices are vacillating every day. So John Fosse's literary genre is perhaps making the mankind, the humankind, to cope up with these VUCA factors inherently. A notable example of his early prose is the short novel Morgon or Quelled, Morning and Evening, written in the midst of an intense period of dramatic output. It may well be his most hopeful work. One morning, the elderly protagonist, Johan's perception of reality begins to dissolve in an uncanny fashion, and we understand that he is going to die. And yet, there is, both in this process and following his death, a tone of reconciliation, although questions that arise in the hinterland between life and death remain unresolved. Along with its pauses, interruptions, and negations, Such questions are profoundly characteristic of Fosse's language. His 2004 novel, Det Alice, Alice at the Fire, includes all of 200 questions in the space of only 70 pages. So this is what Fosse is all about. A central prose work is Trilogy in the year 2016, consisting of Andvake, Olav's Drummer, and Wellsweed, a cruel saga of love and violence with strong biblical allusions. It is said in the barren coastal landscape where almost all of Fosse's fiction takes place. So Fosse comes from the Norwegian, that north area, the mythology of the Nords, as we all study Ragnarok and the gods, Thor and all that stuff. Somewhere or the other, Fosse would have touched upon, in contrast to the biblical allusions. For this highly dramatic and tautly crafted tale, Fosse was awarded the 2015 Nordic Council Literature Prize. It's a civilization itself. Europe, as we understand, it's a motley mix of multiple civilizations, multiple cultures out there. The way we in Bharat, the 28 geocultural locales, we have India, that is Bharat, a union of states. We have an underlying similarity out here, but then Europe has this Nordic space, having its own culture, having its own mythology, having its own traditions, so very phenomenally intertwined over there. And Fosse's magnum opus in prose, now from the plays which were dramatic in nature, his prose remains the late septology he completed very recently in 2021. Det Andre Namnat, the other name, Egg Ein Anan, I is another, Ait Night Nam, a new name, extending to around 1250 pages. The novel is written in the form of a monologue in which an elderly artist speaks to himself as another person. So, what an innovation. The work progresses seemingly the first person, second person, third person in basic literary genre we study in our initial grammars, but then the same person, the elderly artist, is speaking to himself as another person, and this goes on and on in a lengthy work spanning 1250 pages. The work progresses seemingly endlessly and without sentence breaks. Just look at it. But is formally held together by repetitions, recurring themes, and a fixed time span of 7 days. So literature, again, it's that piece of code in the age of computers, when we are looking at code. So the human emotions, the expression, the style, in order to unravel it, it's again a very, very scientific pursuit of its own liking. So each of its parts opens with the same phrase and concludes with the same prayer to God. So just see Fosse's foray into prose after successful venturing into plays where uncertainties and anxieties and the union of the space is preserved, but then time is disrupted in his, I would say, in his renditions, in his depictions of the human reality. The first section of the novel addresses the painting that Asley, the narrator, has been unable to complete, but which is nevertheless dearest to him. Incomplete painting, and he is talking to himself. So Dr. Surbi, I would like to just bring in, because you being a medico, what kind of a psychological depiction, people have studied this talking to oneself. We have a monologue with our own self, and in the Indic pantheon, we try to meditate and have a varta. Swayam se ek varta ki jati hai. So how would you see this narrative coming through from a psychological point of view?
See, definitely talking to oneself can be seen in two paradigms, you know. One is, of course, when we say in the Indic paradigm, we say that he becomes a Paramhans. where you go into Atma Sakshatkar, or you are meditating or going deeper into oneself. And the other paradigm, which is the medical scientific part of it. So when one talks to oneself is also when one is going quite deep into oneself. It's going inward, and inward maybe having a positive connotation in the sense that the person is so deeply meditative that and he's able to witness his thoughts as a spectator. So be a witness. This is something which many spiritual gurus say is a medicine for thoughts and for psychology. So this, in a sense, is a very very beautiful style to to describe the innermost nuances and thoughts and expressions of a being. When a person is talking about his or own thoughts from outside. So
Lovely,
yes,
lovely. In fact,
yeah,
what you have brought about a major distinction, that what is said that ekam sad vipra bahudha vadanti, the truth is one, but it is manifested by the sages in multiple styles. And perhaps
absolutely.
literatures like John Fosse, they have gone so deeper into the human expression that they are somewhat bringing out that human reality. The Atma Sakshatkar ka jo prashna hai, वह अपने इस characters के माध्यम से they are bringing it out, and that is where the genius of the literary giant in John Fosse lies in. And this section then, the incomplete painting, what he's talking about, this depicts two strokes, one purple and the other brown, in the form of a diagonal cross, the style therefore appearing abstract. It is as if this opening phrase draws together the different time layers of the work into a single infinite present. Astley's painting becomes an icon, its emblem of a cross indicating the central theme of death. So the human motive, the eternal human quest of life and death, it is depicted in multiple styles, but eventually the goal remains to satiate that, understand this enigma called life, and going beyond, as we saw that Fosse has been continuously creating such conversations all through his literary work. There is moreover a dominant doppelganger motif inscribed in the painted cross. In the opening section of the novel, we are allowed access to Astley's thoughts as he wanders around the city attempting to rescue his friend and namesake Astley from dying in a snowdrift. This other Astley appears as an unhappy alcoholic version of the Christian artist of the same name, the former possible to interpret as the brown stroke in the painting and the latter as the purple. So two personalities depicted by two swishes, two strokes in the whole painting. So that is the whole purpose of depiction. And their fates crossed at the moments of death. Human transition ki bhi baat, somewhere or the other, it has shown that the people change through self-reflection. So I think self-reflection is somewhere coming through very, very dominantly in Fosse's work. What Dr. Surbi said, that self-meditation, Atma Sakshatkar, that these are the, so the Indic and the Nordic motifs are somewhere further crossing, like these brown strokes and the purple strokes are crossing in Fosse's work. So the septology is moreover not only Astley's attempt at reconciliation. Samatvam yoguchyate, they are trying to reconciliate the various personalities, various human expressions. A reconciliation with his own fate. It is also an elegy through which he mourns the premature passing of his wife, as well as a Constel Roman dealing with his rather less than successful career as an artist. So we all have remorses in life. Fulfillment comes tough, but how to achieve that fulfillment? This is the human quest to reconcile with whatever he could amass, he could gather around the pains, the sorrows, the tribulations, the trepidations we all face. So then to transit it across into the notion of fulfillment. So ultimately he is unable to tear himself away from the painting. बहुत जुड़ जाता है उस painting से. He gets so attached, and this form of attachment has special structural manifestations, especially in the Indian philosophy. कि आसक्ति नहीं होनी चाहिए. Srimad Bhagavatam has the mention of Jad Bharat, that he got so attached to his Hiran, what we call in English, he had to take a rebirth. The concept of rebirth in Indic pantheon solves and resolves many of these questions which are posited in this Christian theology very explicitly Fosse has tried to bring about. So should he even paint over it in white? Should he turn it over? Karma theories, rebirth, Punarjanman, Parlok. So somewhere or the other, they are touching upon almost the same substantial realities of life depicted through the form of a painting. Should we start it over? Does life start over after all efforts, all struggles, all earnestness? We are not able to achieve what we had desired for. जो चाहते हैं वो होता नहीं, जो होता है सो भाता नहीं, और जो भाता है सो रहता नहीं. So the ephemeral nature of life, the uncertainties and the anxieties. So somewhere or the other, Fosse is trying to touch upon that larger philosophical reality of life through his very literary genre, which has really made him a literary giant par excellence, and elevating him to the level of a Nobel laureate out here. So while in the short play Silk Vardet, something similar occurs. This time the aging painter's monologue is only around 30 pages long. This variation on a theme demonstrates Fosse's consistency regardless of the genre. Genre means plays. We were talking earlier, we are now discussing the prose, what Fosse has created. The motif of the wanderer recurs in the play I Svarte Skogen Inde, where a man who has lost all ability to navigate in a fit of delirium drives his car into the darkness and disappears. Another variation on the same motif occurs in Quit Leak, a Shining. Once again, it is the human condition that is Fosse's central theme, irrespective of genre. The human condition, the human wanderings, like drives his car into the darkness and disappears. So that depiction of human condition is Fosse's, I would say, master strokes. And in Sterk Wind, referred to as a dramatic poem, Fosse's increasing use of imagery and symbolism in his plays becomes apparent. From as far back as the 1986 publication of his first poetry collection, Engel, Mad, Vatten, I, Ogin, lyrical language has always served as a great resource in his writing. The recent edition of his collected poetry, Dict I Samling, testifies to the important role poetry has played for him over the years in providing the basis for his elementary diction and sense of the limits of language. Interestingly, Fosse has in recent years added to his long list of translations into Nainoric's two modern lyrical classics, George Trakl, Sebastian I. Drom, and Rainer Maria Rilke's Do You Know Eligar? So this is all the litany of literature of John Fosse, whereby as we have tried to peep into his literary genre, which the Nobel Committee has said for his innovative plays and prose. He has tried to depict the human condition all through and try to philosophically reason out, having monologues with oneself, kind of an exercise in literary meditation, if we can say, And so I would request Dr. Surabhi to sum it up, because the literature again in Bharat, in Subhashitanis, it has been said, Sahitya Sangeet Kala Vihinaha Sakshat Manushya Pashu Prachahinaha. A man who is devoid of literature, music, or arts is like an animal without a tail. So literature is so very important. While the scientist is having a philosophical meandering, and then in his laboratory to find out the phenomena of the human, of the cosmic matter, the biological matter per se. But a literary giant, he treads into the domain of human emotion, human experiences, which he tries to fathom it, and it's another form of science, because at the end of the day, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of fulfillment, the purpose of human life, because it has an expiry date, and Fosse has used the termination of life quite very unequivocally in his plays as well as prose. And then he has also gone to the other side of life as well, where the conversations are happening in the reverse style of it all. So over to Dr. Surabhi to sum up this Know the Nobels Forum 2023 on literature. We would be back with the Peace Nobel, which will be given tomorrow on Friday, 6th of October. And then after the weekend, the Economic Nobel Prize, which was instituted later in the day on Monday. And that will conclude the Know the Nobel series for the year 2023. And the whole purpose behind these discussions is to decomplicate and to familiarize our viewers, especially the young learners in the grades 6 to 12th, that how the basic sciences, how the domain of literature. Today, Rethink India had the great good fortune of felicitating a handful of transformational teachers from across languages, literature, sciences, social sciences, technology. And so language or literature, it's the fountainhead, it's the foundational frontier. So the young learners can delve deeper into the persona of these Nobel laureates and the phenomena, their work, and get enthused that this is what is the epitome of academic scholarship. And they can really chalk out a larger career pathway, a life pathway perhaps for themselves. So with this, over to Dr. Surabhi to conclude and close today's session. Yeah.
So literature is something so very deep, and I would say that articulating the human expression is really, because this is something which is the most insinuating. There are variations. There are points in which it's not linear. It's not predictable. It is not something which is easily definitively describable. So the Literature Nobel Prize definitely inspires our young learners to not only delve into their English and their languages and the literature in which what they're reading, but also to articulate it, to assimilate it, to understand and absorb the human nuances. So with this inspiration,
Like to interlock
and
Dr. Surabhi once, because you being a medico, and somewhere the entire domain of healthcare has been largely divided. And 10th of October, we would be having the World Mental Health Day as well. So the physical health and the mental health are two binaries where the entire health discourse is moving forward. And somewhere the literature, the arts, and the music, these dimensions of human expression have been intertwined closely with with a sound mental health. So how would you comment upon this, that being a literary aficionado, either reading or expressing through the power of pen, through the literary interventions, watching the plays? So where do you see this boosting the mental health at large?
you see, because emotional intelligence is vital for success in any field. You might be wanting to be a scientist, you might be wanting to be an astronaut, And then you may say, what is the purpose of studying literature? But mind you and me, the emotional intelligence, the expression aspect, and the mental health is coming from understanding your emotions, knowing your thoughts, reading your mind and the other person's mind. And literature helps us in doing all of it. It helps us to formulate our own thoughts, to organize our mind, to form views and opinions about the world, about various people, and to understand humanity culturally and overall at large. So I think this is a very important field, and it makes it lends the richness to a human persona in all its splendor.
So what are we, if not for our emotions, our feelings, and the emotions and the feelings are best expressed by one of the, I would say, modicums of literature, which embodies the human emotions, the human feelings, and in having a tete-a-tete with oneself. This is what is the primary purpose of literature, perhaps. So with this, we conclude today's Nobel's Forum on Literature. We will be back again tomorrow, 9 p.m. with the Nobel Peace Prize in peace tomorrow. So till then, namaskar.